me? Oh, they waiting too. Here we go. Okay, can you guys hear me now? Can y'all see me? Hear me? Okay. Inna alhamdulillah wa salat wa salam ala wa rasulallah. I'd like to welcome everybody to another session of Real Talk, though this week's news in review. And we try to keep it based on news that relates to our nation as an ummah. And again, Brother Yusuf is here. And I'm glad to see that you guys have realized that he's back on the scene here at Sunnah Followers, and he's here to try to keep it real. And before we get started, too, I promised Brother Bilal that I would share this with Brother Yusuf. Brother Yusuf, Brother Bilal, and a few of the brothers here are wanting to know, are you going to still talk about the history of what is it again? Masonry in America, and how it started off and how it's grown to what it is all over the country. They want to know, are you going to do a special on that, on the history of Masonry in America?
Inshallah, as promised, definitely. They just take a lot more work and time to get all the facts right. We will be going back to that. In fact, I'll probably just, as I mentioned before, start it over. For those of you who missed the beginnings, that way we have a rhythm and a pace. I still have my notes for the first two, so we can start going to that, soon, and then just build up from there, based on Andrew Hitchcock's work, The Synagogue of Satan, numerous other references. So we definitely can get back into that stuff here soon. Just so much going on in the world, so many things people have to talk about and ask about. We're gonna have some big stuff with Trump, obviously, that happened during the past week. We're gonna cover here today, and then we will move obviously back to that, as it's very relevant. It connects everything together: media, banking, who's running the world.
Okay, well, I'm going to turn this over to Brother Yusuf. I just wanted to make sure that you can see Brother Bilal. I brought that out like you asked. And with no further ado, I'm going to turn this over to Brother Yusuf. Everybody, remember, if there's any questions you have at the end of the show, type them on the screen and I will present them to him. Or you can feel free to join our Zoom room at sunnahfollowers.net. Go to the tab, click on Zoom, and come in and take the mic. And he's here. You can ask him live. So, Brother Yusuf, you can go ahead, inshallah.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. We're going to go through one little topic, and then we'll open up forums, as we've often done the past few weeks, just get you guys involved as much as possible. So yeah, every time we do a show on Friday, within that week, something big happens. So I'm kind of having an uneventful Saturday. I was at home watching a basketball game, just a guilty pleasure of mine, sports here and there, nothing obsessive, of course. And flash on the screen, there's an assassination attempt on Donald Trump. And this was one day, 24 hours almost exactly after we were here live. And of course, at this point in time, when someone lies to you so many times, they have to almost tell the truth at least 10, 15 times before you're even going to accept anything they say. So the first thing I'm thinking, okay, I'm sure this is staged. How convenient. Here we go again. For those of you, I've talked about the previous assassination attempts and my experiences dealing with wounds in the workplace. I've taught first aid. I've treated first aid. I've treated men with massive concussions before in my career. I've nursed men to health and safety in the workplace with advanced first aid training. And Donald Trump's ear, obviously, that we saw a couple of years ago, and all the Secret Service protocols that were broken, the perfect photo op of him with the fist saying, fight, fight, fight. And powerful moment with the American flag conveniently in the background. I think most people with half a brain understood that was fake after a while. After the motion died down and the smoke was cleared, heads started coming together, the stories just don't match up. And we've had a lot of this stuff recently, by the way. We had the Charlie Kirk thing last summer, which was highly suspicious on so many levels. The bullet wound that was actually filmed and put on camera did not look at all compatible. As I've talked to many people in the military who fired weaponry of that caliber, often said that these wounds were totally fake. We've seen a lot of these psyops, and one of my themes here is the world is a stage. These people are putting on a play for us. Almost all the news is pre-planned, staged. And so obviously when I hear that Donald Trump had another attempt on his life, it was something I was highly skeptical on. So I sat down on Sunday afternoon and said, I want to find out, a bit of what happened here so I can present it here and we can unpack it and see how many layers are to this thing. So the gentleman's name was Cole Allen. Now, Cole Allen was positioned, of course, as a leftist fanatic. And for those of you who are American, the leftist fanatics is something that we've been dealing with in this country for quite some time, obviously. So it's a very convenient, easy to believe excuse. I mean, these eco-terrorists, the ones that were killing Mother Earth and they burn people's vehicles down. And obviously, it's funny with these eco-terrorists, they never attack the super wealthy. They always go after the middle class. It's like, and the left, we've seen their phony protests. We've seen all the things that they've done where these people have obviously been paid actors. So when you sell the narrative that this guy is a Kamala Harris supporter, he's a Barack Obama supporter, I mean, it fits in perfectly. In fact, on the flip side, we see the same exact thing. There is a Jewish Zionist group that goes by the name of the Southern Poverty Law Center. I've known about the Southern Poverty Law Center for probably 26 years now. And everything I was telling people about them in 2001 and 2000 has just been leaked. That these so-called white supremacist hate groups, the Southern Poverty Law Center, a Zionist faction pretty much, takes donations to fight hate. And we found out that guess what? They were the ones funding the hate. If there wasn't this Southern Poverty Law Center run by Zionists, there would virtually be no white supremacist groups in this country. The white supremacist narrative that they fed African Americans for decades was a Jewish created lie. So you see it on both sides. When you go and you look at the fanatical leftists, you see who's bankrolling that. A lot of times George Soros is there. You see his money. These protesters are paid. When you go to the other side, you see, oh, the evil white supremacists over here, the far right. You see they're funded by the exact same people. It's like it's a stage. Again, it's about creating and sewing up division, controlling sides of the narrative. So this Cole Allen was billed up as being one of these far leftist fanatics. So I started looking into Mr. Cole Allen. Well, Cole Allen had a common theme with a lot of these phony shooters and gunmen. He appeared in a video in 2017 showcasing his talent. He was a computer science engineer. This guy was, from what I studied in his background, he was quite a good student. Someone of biracial origins. Mother was white, his father was African American. And he had a pretty good academic standing. He was featured in this television show as being an engineer. He did an interview. This is something, again, when we see these patsies, these puppets, you start going back, you see them there. Like this Vivek Ramaswamy character, who's now running for the governor of Ohio, this phony fraud. You can go back 2004, 2005, and there's Vivek. He's in videos. He's in videos talking about politics and being one of the questioners for political candidates. You can look at these. This David Hogue, a few years ago, the Florida school shooting. David Hogue was the homosexual leftist who did the anti-gun campaign with a lesbian female. They were all over the television during this time period. And then you go and you look and you see, lo and behold, 3 years prior, David Hogue was doing videos about a school incident in California for the exact same thing. They are actors. They are informants. They are people who work for the system, and they're used for these causes. So you see him popping up in a television commercial in 2017. He had a master's degree, this fellow, in computer science. Excellent grades, as I mentioned. Went to Cal Tech. This is not something that's easy to do. This guy was no moron. And that's going to be relevant when we talk about what he did here in a minute, because he's obviously not stupid. He's got a good head on his shoulders. Mechanical engineer. He was a teacher. He was a video game developer. Was one of his passions in life. And one of the things that immediately jumped out at me is I'm starting to look at his work history because they had his LinkedIn. So I started reading his LinkedIn page. And this is where it becomes kind of, as we see, a little bit strange. He worked for NASA during the summer of 2014 as an intern, doing models for their phony planetary and solar system findings. He wrote papers, there. Anyone who's familiar with my work, I've mentioned NASA here and there. NASA is nothing more than a money laundering operation for psychological operations. One of the main purposes of NASA is to spread the myth of this endless, vast universe. And you have all these, they give you laws on one hand and they completely break the laws. They've had phony moon landings. We've covered those briefly here. Phony mission launches, phony space station. Everything about NASA is psyop. It is a Masonic controlled organization. You even see the serpent tongue in the NASA logo. I mean, it's clear as day. When you see these phony astronauts doing their space station videos, they always got their hands in the triangle position. They're always flashing Masonic signs and things like that. All these guys, Buzz Aldrin, Neil Armstrong, they all are master masons, 33rd degree level. Everything about NASA is a show. It is tax. They're taking billions of dollars of our money every year, doing God knows what, besides the propaganda that we obviously get fed by them. So when you have people like this gentleman here, typically they scout for the best and brightest minds to work for them. They use these internships as recruitment tools. And this guy happened to be one of them. So obviously that jumped out to me. Okay, here you have an assassin internship at NASA. As I mentioned, they recruit the best and the brightest minds to work on their projects. So then it gets even more interesting. There was an account found on X as people started searching for this guy, went by the name of Henry Martinez. Henry Martinez basically made just one tweet in December 21st, 2023. His tweet simply stated Cole Allen. Now, December 21st, 2023, for those of you familiar with occult and astronomy, this is the winter solstice. This is the big day. This is where the Christians get the concept that Jesus died for 3 days, was resurrected on the third day. Because going back to ancient solar cult mythology, the sun is in the lowest point in the northern hemisphere on December 21st. So they used to say the sun died. The sun died on December 21st. The 22nd, 23rd, and 24th are the periods, the lowest point of the sun's trajectory in the hemisphere, the shortest days of the year in the northern hemisphere. So that's where they got the term, the sun died. He was dead for 3 days. And then on December 25th, ring a bell, the sun begins its ascendancy back to warmer days. So they've, of course, when they corrupted the Christian religion, they put a lot of their solar occultic stuff all over it. That's where you find this stuff all over the Gospels. That's a whole another lesson for a different time, and why the Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu mission was so important, because it had gone so far in the corruption of the message of Isa alayhi salam. So you have this Henry Martinez tweeting this particular line there, Cole Allen. Well, Henry Martinez also, there was a gentleman that went by that name who worked in NASA and actually was someone who worked on a paper with Mr. Cole Allen. So a lot of coincidences there. Now, it's a possibility that this Henry Martinez account was faked. I mean, anything with social media now, if you control the code, you can go in there and manipulate anything you want. You can change dates. I mean, we're not saying definitively, don't want to mislead anybody, but highly suspicious. A man named Henry Martinez works at NASA, works with Cole Allen on the same exact project, makes one tweet in the winter solstice of 2023 mentioning this guy's name, and then all of a sudden here we are today with him perpetrating an attack, we're going to get to that in a second, poorly perpetrated attack to kill the president of the United States. So again, this Cole Allen, they've sold him as this big leftist. He was a Kamala supporter, an Obama supporter, I'm sure, Hillary probably as well. They didn't go into all those details. Well, there's photos of him also wearing an IDF shirt. He was wearing an Israeli defense shirt. Highly questionable behavior from a far leftist. As most far leftists, this is one of the ways they kind of seduce the Muslim community, is by, oh, we're for Palestine like you. Come and join us and welcome in all the LGBTQ and all the other destructive far left policies. And the Muslim leadership is leading Muslims right to that, as we've covered here extensively. So again, very, very strange here. So what does this man do? You know, imagine this. You've got this guy's IQ had to be 120, 130 at least. to be in the field that he was, to do what he had done. You're not going to be a moron. It's just not going to be possible. So you have planned out to kill the most powerful man on paper, not in reality, but on paper in the United States. And the best plan you can come up with is to get a shotgun, a pistol, some knives, and literally run through the magnets of the security entering into the hotel where he's presenting. I mean, this has got to be the most kindergarten, elementary level assassination attempt in human history. I mean, who in their right mind would think for a second that this would work? That you can just go in with a shotgun, hey, I'm going to get him, and run right through the security who are armed. Obviously, the President of the United States is here. There's all kinds of other high-profile people here. There are guns in there out the yin-yang. I mean, it's everywhere. Guys have guns. Undercovers, here, there. I mean, Secret Service agents all over the place. And you just run right in. And, of course, they got him. There was a Secret Service officer who was hit by mistake during this attack or attempted attack. They didn't get him, and which is odd because usually when someone, they take them out. But this guy is still there, and he's going to be standing on trial for an attempted assassination of the President of the United States, facing a very, very long-term prison sentence. Highly questionable. Now, people would say, well, what's the motivation for them doing such a thing? Because the whole thing just doesn't add up. It makes no sense. Why a guy would throw away his life so recklessly for a literal 0% chance of success. 0%. Not even in the most crazy of Hollywood movies could something like this have been pulled off. There's just too much security. There's too many men armed to the teeth with advanced training and accuracy, marksmanship. You're going to get nailed, but he did it. And, building up sympathy for the Trump agenda. But you also find out sometimes they stage things just for small stuff. Donald Trump has been wanting to get that ballroom built. And originally he promised this would not come from the taxpayer, that he would raise his own funds for this thing. And now we're hearing already Lindsey Graham, one of my favorite puppets, I mentioned him off and on numerous times here, has talked about we're going to have to go to the taxpayer for this. Because we can't have the president doing these events anymore in places like this because it's too risky. So we have to justify making the American taxpayer pay for a ballroom. The average American can barely afford to fill his gas tank and pay his rent or her rent anymore. And you just keep on trying to find ways to drain more and more money out of their pockets. I just got an email today, in fact, from the utility company announcing that the electrical rates are going to go up 4.7% coming up in 2027. They just raised them this past year, and then they announced a 2028 hike is coming as well. So in a matter of 2 years, my utility bill will go up significantly. Now, they announced 3.5% for 2026. My electric bill's gone up by over $50. It was not 3.5%. 3.5% would have been so low, I barely would have noticed it. But they're just consistently taking us down and down and down. Everything goes up, more and more bills, more and more taxes. And here's another justification to basically go and take more money in taxes, valuable money and resources that could go to repairing this country and really doing things good for this. So that's just one aspect. And again, who is he? Was he, mind controlled? Was he forced to do this? We don't know. And probably until years go down the line and people start talking, we probably never will know exactly what was in this man's mind. But we do know that it reeks of a setup from the beginning to the end, a staged incident, poor, like I said, 0% success rate, no chance. And yet you've got Muslim influencers, again, going out here and telling it like this is 100% real. Like these influencers are something else because on one hand, they'll tell you, the Zionists control the media, which they do. You shouldn't trust them. But then when it came to COVID, those same influencers are saying, trust them here. You can trust them on this. They lied about 99.9% of everything else over here, but you should trust them here. And they're doing the same thing now. Trust them. This story is true. This guy is who they say he was. And I just showed examples here that he's not who they're saying he is. And very quick internet searches brought that to light. And shame on these people for continuing to peddle the lies of the mainstream media. As I said, the world is a stage. And hopefully, as you guys, we watch more and more as the weeks go by, you'll start to understand, because it's a big puzzle. We're putting the pieces together all around in all different areas for you guys to really start seeing the world with new eyes and stop believing their lies, because they're lying about everything. For every one bit of truth, there's going to be 99 falsehoods, thrown in it. So I'll close that topic on that, and we're open for discussion and questions as usual.
That was the biggest news for the entire week.
Oh, absolutely.
That was the biggest news for the entire week. And I understood that he was trying to assassinate some of the other people, some of the other well-known people, not the president. All of a sudden,
there's been mixed. They are listing it. He's being charged with an attempt of assassination of the president. Either way, as I mentioned, this man was not some loner drug addict who just had a death wish. He was a man of very high intelligence. And for anyone to believe that they could just run in through security like this and make it alive, I mean, it's highly questionable, along with the other information that I brought here about his past ties and working for a known intelligence organization and a recruiter, like NASA. None of it connects. Always, as usual, something foul play, if you will, was going on here.
Okay. Another little source, Jimmy Kimmel or Kimmel, made a statement against Melania Trump, basically saying, oh, she's going to be a widow. So that was another controversy this week.
Yeah, he said this, and then the lady, Miss Levitt, the press secretary, she said on Fox News, and it's on camera, 20 minutes before the ballroom thing commenced, we're going to see some shots fired tonight. And this, again, is like when the COVID thing first came out, I was pointing out to people, wish I was here at the time on this platform, they would do so many things during COVID where they would flash the number 33, which is a very significant number in Masonry. And they always call their shots. They always tell you what's about to happen. It's a game to them. They had this one thing in India where they had all these people were posing dead on top of the caskets. It's like, who dies of a disease laying in a graveyard? I mean, it's like, it was so comical and laughable. And they put 33 dead, new variant. And I'm just, there you go again. They had one time, they were showing an ambulance outside of one of the supposed overcrowded hospitals. And they cut the camera picture of the ambulance where you could see the number 33 on it. We saw this all over that scam. And every time they do an event like this, you just go back and you'll see these things. And she's rolling out there, yeah, we're going to have some shots fired definitely tonight. And sure enough, in about 20 minutes after that, there were literal supposed shots fired. You can't make this stuff up. And this is all for the public to see. That clip is there. They call their shots. They always do. It's a game. They're laughing at us.
Yes, apparently we see it. This AI, I'm a little bit concerned about the AI. How is the AI going to take over my brain? Can you kind of elaborate how it can just come and take over my world?
Well, absolutely. I was doing some research, and I was a different person before I converted to Islam. I had a history of partying and drinking a lot, and I had to do some community service because I had a driving under the influence of alcohol charge back when I was in my early 20s. And I had been researching about how they were planning to manipulate human thought and stuff like that. And I was doing my community service, and I was talking to one of the guys that I was doing the community service with. And this other guy who was a customer in the thrift store that I was working in, he came up to me and he said, hey, how are you? I'm such and such. I'm infantry in the U.S. Army. I was in the second, Gulf War. And he said, I heard what you were saying. And I said, yeah, and he said that, it was interesting because when I was in the military, they had approached me. This is in 2003, 2004-ish. I'm telling you my memory here, somewhere around that time frame. And he said they wanted to do an experimental program on the soldiers. And I wasn't aware of this. This was actually actively going on at that time. And what they were wanting to do was map our emotions. So what they were looking for was the signals and the activity of the brain during traumatic, stressful, and happiness and joy. And he said that he, of course, he didn't opt in, for said program. And then he said, when I heard you speaking these things, he said, it all made sense. It's like the dots connected in my head that they're trying to find out how we think and feel so they can use it. And that's exactly what it is. They have found out for a long period of time, doing studies on soldiers and others, people willingly and I'm sure unwillingly, to find out exactly how they can turn on and turn off certain emotions in us chemically. And I believe they've known how to do it the same way they're playing with the weather. They know how to do this. And they've known how to do it for quite some time. If they're showing us AI now, this is stuff they've had for 30, 40 years. High vis or high definition technology. I was also having a similar conversation with a guy in one of my last jobs. And he was an older man, came up, and he was in the military in the 1970s. And he said, I never liked talking about these things, but they had showed me high resolution photos that they had done in reconnaissance missions where the resolution was so detailed that you could see the beard hairs on the guys on the ground from way, way up. And this HD high resolution photography, they've had it for a long time. They didn't release it to us until the 2000s. So if they're releasing the technology to the mainstream masses, you better believe they have way more than that. And they've had the one that they're giving us for a long period of time. So Elon Musk, who's a front man for this cartel, he will be the one, the vehicle to release their projects, just like Bill Gates was a vehicle to release Windows, just like Zuckerberg was a vehicle to release Facebook, and it's all the same script. You see the same thing here. Elon Musk will be the one that's going to sell you this as good. They're going to put these things in you. It's going to enhance you. It's going to make you better, because always when they do something, it's for your own benefit. And you combine this with television and music, which already has that ability to manipulate through sound and manipulate your emotions, put you in suggestible states. I mean, it's just one step further of that, where they can completely control how you think and feel during every aspect of the day. They're harnessing us, using us like a battery for our energy and manipulating our emotions. It's only going to get worse and worse. So you'll be seeing a lot more about that in the coming months and years, as they're eventually going to start off with people who are paralyzed. They'll be able to gain movement back. They'll be able to do a lot of things there. You're going to be able to see, oh, look, you can turn on the television with your mind. Oh, look, you can do this with your mind. What else can they do? And of course, we know that it's not going to be anything but malicious intent. And yeah, so to answer your question, lots of insight on that I've gained over the years, where they're steering the ship.
Is that like the movie Minority Report with Tom Cruise?
I've never seen that, but they do release a lot of the stuff that they're doing in the movies. It's called predictive programming. They get you used to stuff, and then later on they'll do it so you're comfortable with the ideas. Or they use it to make you think the ideas are crazy. Oftentimes I've had people quote movies on me in arguments as evidence, like, oh, well, you got that from this movie. I'm like, no, I got this from real life. The movie obviously was written by people in the same cartel, same group, who are making a mockery of it to make it look like it's not factual. So they do it from multiple ways, getting you conditioned to certain things, and also to make reality seem absurd. Because if you see it in a movie filled with other insanities and unrealistic things, you're like, oh, that's just that conspiracy crap from that movie. So it's one of the many ways they use Hollywood to control public perception. You'd be amazed. I mean, how many people? You go back and you look at how human evolution in tribal structure and social hierarchies, young boys and people throughout human history, they mimic the behavior of the men of the tribe, your father, your uncles. And this is why you didn't see really any cultural changes for thousands of years, because you adapted to the way your father was. You adapted to the way your uncle, your cousins, the other men of the family. And it was a healthy thing. Young boys became men through the men of the tribe, of the clan, whatever you want to call it. But when entertainment and media came out and they started creating what they call artificial style, artificial reality, you started having people, instead of being like dad and the uncle and the cousins, they started emulating the celebrity. They started emulating Sneeko. They started emulating the actor who's playing a character in a movie. I mean, you'd be surprised how many people like look at a celebrity like, oh, I like him. What do you know about him? What do you know about this guy? You know nothing about him than what he's given you on the camera. That's all you know about him. But because you think he's a good actor, which is actor being the key word there, you worship this individual. You put him on a pedestal or her on a pedestal. And you mimic the behaviors. I've had so many people, oh, you remind me of this guy from this show. Have you ever seen it? I'm like, no, I have not. Because that's how people identify nowadays. They emulate entertainers and celebrities and characters on TV shows. Oh, I want to be like this guy from that sitcom that comes on 8:30 every Wednesday night. And this is why you have what the concept, which is alien before, called the generation gap, where they say, oh, there's just a generation gap between the grandparents and the grandkids. Generation gap didn't exist before the propagandists started being in your living room. Once you welcome them into the living room with that box, called a television set, everything started to drastically change and cultures were just eroded. You can look at Saudi Arabia and places in the Muslim world now and look at the youth and then compare their youth to the grandparents. They're having the same problems we've had in the West now. The youth are so far left, are so removed from the traditional cultures, particularly the Islamic aspects of the culture, and are embracing the new, consumer, soulless, modern culture that we're seeing all over the world, carbon copies of themselves.
Yeah, technology has an effect all of us.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And this is why, again, I mean, you see what we're seeing now. I mean, you don't go from, Madonna, to Sexy Red or Megan Thee Stallion or any of the other degenerate women. I mean, Madonna is like a nun at this point in comparison to what you're seeing, from these other women. When I was growing up, everyone knew Madonna was trash, and she was promoting promiscuity and degeneracy to young girls. But you look at Madonna now and you compare her to the entertainers that the young ladies are emulating now. Madonna's a nun. I mean, she's a sister in a niqab, in comparison to this. I mean, it's gone so much in just my lifetime. What's it going to be in 20 years? How much worse, can it honestly get? Are they going to literally be on stage nude at this point? Questions? Anyone got any questions?
I think you answered the one because I was curious about the one but I still don't understand why would they want him to do that. So
which part? The Trump thing?
Yeah, the Trump thing. I still don't understand why would they. I mean, are they going to try to put more restrictions on us now?
Well, that'll be there too. They're going to get money for the ballroom. The taxpayer will pay for it. It's justification. And of course, I mean, there's probably going to be, every time something like this happens, you find more surveillance, more green light to spy on us, to search our personal messages under legality. It's terrorism, it's anti-terrorism, counterterrorism measures, more and more surveillance. To the point that you can't have any privacy except for maybe in your own bathroom, which they want to see in there as well. It's scary times, and this stuff really got the ball rolling with the phony Oklahoma City Timothy McVeigh thing, where they started opening up the spying, and then you saw 9/11 was really just on steroids for how much they were allowed to do with the Patriot Act. And again, the names that they give for the Patriot Act. You're not a patriot if you don't support this massive spying.
Let me What's wrong? Okay, all right, one more thing I'll say here. What's going on in the world today? If you notice, the redistricting of voters, can you kind of address that? It's like we're going back to the Jim Crow days.
Well, districting has always been a hot button issue. I saw a post today, which is what I want everybody to realize. Voting is basically like writing letters to Santa Claus. I've tried to make that one pretty clear here. I mean, it's like when you vote for someone, it's like the same as a child writing a letter to Santa Claus. It's make believe. But we saw the Democrats do this in Virginia, where they're trying, and as I said here before, when the left gets power, they don't give it up. Look at the state of California. You can look at the state of New York. And Zohran Mamdani is all those Muslims, the 95% that voted for him, are seeing they want to be racist against white Americans. They want to bring these type of policies, and it's backfiring on them, and they're going to have their property taxes raised significantly. But you add what happened in Virginia, which was illegal, was shut down. They're trying to put 10 Democratic districts for one conservative district. And this, again, is to get everything more to the far left. And then now you saw what the Republicans countered with what went on in Louisiana, where they were doing districts based on race, which is not American, at all. I mean, if you're part of a district, that district has to be clearly defined. The lines need to be drawn, not based on race, but based on the area. And if there's more African Americans in there, there's probably going to be more tending to vote to the left. You have more white Americans in there, it tends to vote more to the right. So they're splitting up race-based districts in a lot of these states, and people are calling, foul, on. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter because it doesn't matter who you vote for. As I said, the agenda is the left. The Republicans only exist to make you think somebody's fighting this, because mark my words, what they're doing right now will be used 10 years later. Like eminent domain. I remember they passed eminent domain back in the early or late 90s, early 2000s, and this gave them the right to seize your land and to give you a very small fair market value compensation for that land. You couldn't fight it. And people were like, oh, well, they never used it. And I was like, they're not going to use it now. They're going to wait. They're going to use it 20 years from now. They're setting the stage for way, way later. So whatever they're doing here, you're going to see it unveiled in 5 to 10 years. And they want one party rule, in the end of the day. All this stuff will backfire. I said, you're going to end up getting a leftist, Marxist government, because that's what the agenda is. That's what the plan is. It's everywhere in Europe now. I mean, what they consider far right in Europe would be left here. So you're seeing, real far left of the Democratic Party is slowly, because the average person doesn't support leftist issues at all. I mean, leftist people don't even reproduce. Most leftists don't have children, or they have very small families. They create leftists in a lab called universities. And that's how they keep things going, is from that and through corruption. Because any average, normal, decent human being is not going to vote for the policies of the left unless they're basically a misinformed voter. So they have to do it like they've done in California. They flood it with illegals. Illegals have no idea what they're voting for. They just hear free handouts and they go and they run and they vote. They pay them to vote. They busted this in California. They don't do anything. Well, they just bust them in. People that don't even speak English, they bust them in, because this is how the Democratic Party has to keep control, is through fraud, through illegals, through unlimited immigration, taking advantage of ill-informed voters and voting against their interests. Not saying the Republican Party is a savior. No, not by any means. As I said earlier, they're just here to make you think there's an opposition. But true conservatism is a much better aligning with our Islamic values form of government than this Marxism you see in the Democratic Party. I mean, the Democratic Party is the opposite of Islam in every way. And who are Muslims voting for? As we've exposed here time and time again, they're voting for the left. They're voting against the morals. They're voting against Allah, literally, in some of the things that the left supports.
Yeah, alhamdulillah. Thanks for sharing that.
But yeah, they're going to whip up the racial frenzy as they always do. But at the end of the day, this is a power grab, and we'll see it sooner rather than later. You're already seeing states like Virginia. I mean, all my life, Virginia was a red state. Now Virginia, as I mentioned earlier, is in blue hands. You're not, because they don't do anything about the fraud and the corruption. They know it exists. Every election, we see the same script in blue states. You see all the smaller cities, they turn their votes in, and you see 0% turned in from the big cities. They just wait. Oh, we need a million votes. Okay, there it is, 1.1. You're done. We win. And they did this in Virginia with a referendum. They held the votes until they saw all the other counties turned in, and then boom, there they come, they do this, and then they walk away with a victory.
Alhamdulillah, mashallah, Brother Yusuf. This seems to have been a very informative week in review, especially concerning the assassination attempt on Trump. Alhamdulillah, mashallah, you covered that so well. Mashallah, any other closing comments before we end for the week? Alhamdulillah. Any questions? Any closing comments from anyone? The brother here, I'm sorry, I wasn't here to see what was typed on screen. The brother here typed yes. He said, considering that the person that they arrested for the so-called assassination attempt was a genius and had all of this going on for himself, he said, I believe it was a ploy too. Another a ploy too, because why would a man of this man's integrity and genius plan such a twisted attempt? He said, I think it was Trump once again planning to get more attention on himself, especially since the hiatus of the war with Iran. I think it was a ploy.
Yeah, if you were, I've been working in the industry for a long time, and I see the salaries that people with these degree levels they make. It's a lot of money. This gentleman was living a good life. He was prominent in his field. It would make 0 sense unless I said he was suicidal. And if he was suicidal, I think it would have unfolded a little bit different. He'd been planning to die in these attacks. But you wouldn't do something like this. It's like a child planned this. Like somebody who watched way too many Jean-Claude Van Damme or Arnold Schwarzenegger movies actually would believe that you could pull this off in real life. I mean, to walk right in there with all those armed guards everywhere, plain clothes, marked clothes, you name it, guns on you everywhere, and think you could walk in there brandishing an open weapon and get through. And the fact that he wasn't blown to a million pieces is also highly suspicious. I've talked to soldiers. I grew up in a military town, and they've told me about security protocols when they were in foreign countries, for bases and things like that. And it's shoot first, ask questions later when you have a security breach. You know, you shoot first, you ask questions later because it's an imminent threat. And this whole thing is just highly suspicious. And I broke out his background, who he was affiliated with. It doesn't add up. Just like the first assassination attempt was, it reeked from the beginning.
Yes.
Every Secret Service protocol for protection was broken. They said it was incompetence. They gave the perfect photo op with the American flag in the background. I mean, you couldn't have scripted something better. It's like out of a movie. Like you're literally watching a movie.
And no telling, he said, no telling how much the person was, all his family was given in money, offered, you know, for this and money, set up for life, federal prison, vacation for the rest of your life, no telling. He said, I'm glad that you saw through this too, because I thought it was a ploy as well.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And they're doing this so often now. I mean, I grew up where you didn't see this stuff. 9/11 was a big one.
Yes.
When they did 9/11, that was a huge one. Oklahoma City was
Oklahoma
a big one.
City, that's what he typed too. Oklahoma City.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oklahoma City was a huge one. The moon landing was a big one. JFK, the Gulf of Tonkin for the Vietnam War, obviously COVID. These are some of the big ones in the lifetime. But now they're just churning these things out. Small scale stuff all the time. You know, multiple with this president going on. The whole phony rigged election of 2020, where the election was rigged so bad that it was so obvious, you know, that everybody saw what was going on, because that served to create the narrative of Trump being a returning hero.
Yes.
You know, he was coming back to save us. They stole the election from him, which they did, and they made it so obvious that they did to make it look like he was a victim. Then you add the phony Trump criminal trials. I had so many people insulting my intelligence, saying, you were so negative, you don't want to believe anything. Trump really is charged. I said, no, he's not. He will not serve 1 minute in prison for any of this stuff. All of it's going to be thrown out. And all of it was. And the phony mug shots they sent, which were not police protocol mug shots at all. They were all staged. There wasn't even a record of him turning himself in. There wasn't even arrest records for this.
Exactly.
All this stuff was completely scripted.
Yes, what it appears like. Okay, guys. Well, this was a great week in review. Remember, next week, Brother Yusuf won't be here, but then the week after, we're going to change.
Oh, I'll be here next week.
Oh, it's next week.
Yeah.
Oh, it's the week. Okay.
Yeah, next week I'll be here. I was saying the week after we would change the time.
Okay, the week after we're changing the time. Okay, not this week.
Yeah,
coming
next
up.
week I'll be here probably after Maghrib. It'll be about 8:10, 8:15.
Okay, so the week after. Let me write that down. The week after the time we'll change this to 7:15.
Yeah, we'll have to move up because Maghrib prayer will start being more into the sessions. I obviously want to pray myself. I don't want to hurt any brothers who live on the East
So you
Coast.
don't want to change it to 7:15 next week? Okay, the week after.
No, because I have to do some maintenance for my car, some planned preventive maintenance stuff on my car. So.
Okay. All right, guys. So not this week, but the next week will be 7:15 at this. This will be right after Brother Muhammad Zergana's class. Okay, so that'd be great. Okay, so guys, thanks for joining for this week, and inshallah next week we'll have another week in review. Keep your eyes on the news and see what's happening, so we can come here, bring it here to Brother Yusuf Zucovsky. Zucovsky Talks as what they're putting. I see that algorithms are putting him as Zucovsky Talks. And also it's another thing that they got you in the algorithms for. Zucovsky Speaks, he talks, and something else is coming up. Your name is hitting the algorithms. Okay, so make sure you guys look at the shorts as I put them out this weekend too for him. And inshallah, we'll see you guys next week. Subhanaka Allahumma wa bihamdika ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta. Yes, my Q&A. Yes, my Q&A is at still 9:30, which would be what, 30 minutes. Yes, have your questions ready. And what? Yes, your mosque questions too, Sister Amira. Okay, so Subhanaka Allahumma wa bihamdika ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. We'll see you guys next week for this show here. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Okay, this was